How exactly was the world's richest drug lord finally captured? Well, it actually took both US and Mexican intelligence working together, and their strategy was the exact same tactic they used to find bin Laden. The trick is follow the courier, and you get the prize. They tracked down his associate and kept tabs on one of his many girlfriends. Because yes, this 59-year-old guy somehow had a love interest. Maybe because he is richer than the Sinaloa drug lords with $20 billion at his disposal. For the longest time, the guy was a total ghost. He stayed entirely off the US radar by intentionally keeping his operations away from American citizens. So how did it all finally end? It happened at a cabin. And even when he was completely surrounded by military helicopters, he was still protected by his own heavily armed henchmen, rocking RPGs and armored vehicles. And all hell broke loose when the Mexican Special Forces started attacking with guns blazing. The operation that brought down Mexico's most wanted man didn't happen in a bustling city. It happened in a fortress. The primary firefight, the exact moment the Mexican armed forces went head-to-head with heavily armed CJNG operatives, fatally wounded many of the drug lord's members. This is located in the western state of Jalisco. Tapalpa is a rugged mountainous municipality about a 2-hour drive southwest of the state capital, Guadalajara. For the cartel, this wasn't just a hideout. It was a tactical stronghold, utilizing the harsh terrain as a natural defense against the military. But taking down the kingpin was only the beginning. Almost immediately following the raid, the CJNG unleashed hell. A massive, highly coordinated wave of retaliation exploded against government forces and public infrastructure. This violent pushback, often referred to as narco blockades, spread like wildfire across the country. The violence hit hardest in Jalisco, engulfing major cities like Guadalajara, Zapopan, and the international tourist hub of Puerto Vallarta, where the chaos even spilled into the airports, throwing tourists into a panic and forcing immediate flight cancellations. The cartel's fury wasn't contained to just one state. The violence rapidly bled into Michoacán, Guanajuato, Colima, Tamaulipas, Nayarit, Zacatecas, Guerrero, and Aguascalientes. In a desperate bid to paralyze the region and exact revenge, drug lords' members hijacked civilian vehicles and semi-trucks, setting them ablaze to completely block major highways. They torched local businesses and gas stations, engaging in brutal, open-street shootouts with local and federal security forces. But how did he become the richest cartel in Mexico? For years, he was a ghost. A phantom who commanded an empire of blood, methamphetamine, and billions of dollars. But on Sunday, February 22, 2026, the ghost was finally cornered. Nemesio Ruben Oseguera Cervantes, better known to the world as El Mencho. He was the supreme leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, or CJNG. He didn't just run a cartel. He commanded a heavily armed paramilitary force that brought the Mexican state to its knees. But how did a former farmer and deported immigrant build a $20 billion war chest? And what exactly happened in the violent, fiery raid that finally took his life? To understand his explosive end, we have to look at his quiet beginning. In the 1980s, Mencho was just an undocumented immigrant in the United States, working the marijuana fields of California. He was arrested, served time in a U.S. federal prison, and was deported back to Mexico at the age of 30. That deportation was the match that lit the powder keg. He joined the Milenio drug lords in Michoacán, building a reputation as a calculating, ruthless enforcer. When that cartel fractured, Mencho didn't just pick up the pieces, he forged a new terrifying weapon, the CJNG. Mencho was a master strategist. While rival cartels like Sinaloa bled themselves dry in civil wars, especially after the capture of El Chapo and the recent fall of El Mayo, Mencho capitalized on the chaos. He pivoted away from traditional routes and went all in on methamphetamine and fentanyl, focusing on highly lucrative markets in Europe and Asia. This strategy kept him slightly under the radar of American politics, while quietly amassing a staggering $20 billion empire. Former DEA agents claim the CJNG has vastly more money than the Sinaloa Cartel ever did. But unlimited wealth buys unlimited arrogance. A couple of years ago, his phone was hacked right while he was having a conversation with the police. If you don't want your phone and emails to get compromised like that, you should get this military-grade VPN. Think of Surfshark VPN as your frontline defense. It scans and detects threats, alerting you to thousands of dangerous emails. You can use this web content blocker. All you do is enter the phone's information, pick the types of websites you'd like to block, and then save it. That's it. Your children is protected from any inappropriate or dangerous content. Beyond that, it includes a robust antivirus software to shield your devices from viruses, malware, and tracking by ads, bots, or third parties. Finally, with Surfshark VPN, a single subscription covers not just you, but also your friends or even your entire city if you wanted. Go to our link surfshark.com/Aitelly. By buying through the promo link, you will get 4 extra months free, assured by a 30-day money-back guarantee. Listen to this recently surfaced actual wiretapped phone call between El Mencho and a local police commander, codenamed Delta 1, who was doing his job a little too well.
Delta 1.
Hey, ¿quién habla?
Mira bien, hijo de tu... Soy Mencho, güey. Relaja tu puta gente a la verga. Soy Mencho, güey. Relaja tus partidas, si no te voy a partir tu madre 10 toda tu bola de perros. Te tengo identificado 30 güeyes. Hasta tus perros te voy a matar si no te relajas, güey. ¿Cómo ves?
Ya está, señor, ahorita los bajo.
Oh, no cuelgues, hijo de la verga. Te tengo ubicados en
No, no le estoy colgando, le estoy diciendo ahorita los bajo.
Póngase bien las pilas, güey. ¿Qué se le cuesta ser amigo? Uno no se mete con ustedes para que se pasen de verga.
No, señor, ahorita yo se las bajo.
Pongan, mire, revíremeles a todos los hijos de su p*** madre, porque todos agarran dinero y son buenos de puercos.
Sí, es lo que me están
¿Se
diciendo.
me ponen a tiros o tú eres el primero que vas a marchar por ellos, León?
No, señor.
¿Vale?
No, señor, no se trata de eso.
Váyase a la verga, porque aquí los vergazos están al 220, ya se la sabe. Y miedo no hay.
No, señor, no se trata de eso. Ahorita yo lo sé.
Entonces, si quieren amistad, aquí va a tener un amigazo, si no, a su madre a la verga.
No, yo sé, señor.
Ya estoy hasta la verga de que no entiendan, loco.
Señor, usted me conoce, usted sabe que yo soy amistad.
Pues por eso me extraña, yo te entiendo, güey, pero pues no mames, yo sé que tienes gente y la familia de verga, póngase las putas pilas.
Yo lo sé, señor. Nada más.
No quiero que me apagues este teléfono, después te voy a marcar, güey, a ver si no se relajaron a la verga, ¿eh?
No, ahorita le voy a marcar.
A todos en general, güey, relájenme los vergas, por favor.
Ahorita le voy a marcar de otro número, a este número que me está marcando.
No, este ya no le vuelvas a marcar, yo le marco cuando yo pueda.
Ándale, pues.
Pero no me lo apague porque lo voy a entender como negatividad.
No, señor, ahorita le mando un mensaje de otro número para que me marque los...
Órale, pues, Melón, ahí les quiero eso, que se relaje.
Sí, señor, usted me conoce, usted sabe que hay respeto y hay amistad. Nada más
ya
aquí...
está, igualmente, de aquí para allá también. Ahí disculpen por las malas palabras.
Aquí los muchachos
¿vale?
son los que están allá y usted yo se los saludo.
Ahora pues, ahí le encargo.
Ándale, señor.
Ahí relájenmelos a todos, dígale que va de parte mía.
Claro que sí, señor.
Ya está.
Ándale.
But how did the Mexican and U.S. intel caught him? Why do you follow the girlfriend? Yes, literally follow the girlfriend. Intel identified a trusted cartel associate with a very specific job, moving one of El Mencho's love interest. They placed this courier under strict, round-the-clock surveillance, waiting for him to make a move. And eventually he did. Agents tracked the associate as he escorted the girlfriend to a secret rendezvous point. The trail led them exactly where El Mencho felt safest. The heavily guarded, secluded cabin compound in Tapalpa, a picturesque mountain resort town about 80 miles outside of Guadalajara. On Saturday, February 21st, 2026, the girlfriend arrived at the compound. Mexican military commanders had eyes on the target, but they didn't rush in. They played the waiting game. They held their positions, watching silently until she safely departed the property later that day. Her departure confirmed what they needed to know. El Mencho and his heavily armed security detail were still inside. To pull this off, the military had to maintain absolute secrecy. In the early, pitch-black hours of Sunday, February 22nd, the trap was sprung. The moment they breached the perimeter, all hell broke loose. The CJNG didn't just have standard rifles. The compound was a fortress defended by armored vehicles and military-grade rocket launchers specifically designed to blast military helicopters out of the sky. When the Mexican Army Special Forces breached the perimeter, a fierce, sustained firefight erupted. The air was instantly thick with the deafening roar of 50-caliber machine guns and the shattering blasts of rocket-propelled grenades. 4 cartel members forming the inner security ring were killed instantly in the courtyard. 3 Mexican Special Forces soldiers were severely wounded as they pushed through the barrage. As his defenses collapsed, the 59-year-old kingpin attempted to retreat. But where was he during the raid? Tactical reports place El Mencho in the west wing of the safe house, a fortified section of the compound likely intended to shield him or provide access to an escape route while his guards held off the assault. But the military's push was too fast and too overwhelming. Amidst the chaotic crossfire, Mexican special forces laid down heavy suppressing fire using their standard-issue FX-05 5.56 6mm assault rifles. High-velocity rounds tore through the reinforced doors and drywall of the west corridor. Caught in the fatal funnel of the hallway, the kingpin was hit. Struck multiple times in the torso by the 5.56 6mm rounds, El Mencho collapsed onto the floor of the west wing. Critically wounded and bleeding heavily, his remaining security detail was neutralized. We also made a deep dive into the sea, air, and land components of the nuclear triad, so subscribe for more videos to not miss a beat.